Welcome to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm Angela.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Emily. We're three life coaches who found connection in faith, friendship, and purpose.
Get ready for real talk, relatable stories, and practical tips you can actually use.
We're so happy you're here at the Life Coach Lounge. Hello. Welcome back to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm so glad to be back here with my two besties and all of our listeners today. Today, we're going to just talk about something that actually has been nudging me to talk about. So I talked about this a little bit with Emily and Angela, as all of you know, in our Marcos. And the three of us were fortunate enough to get together in person over the last month. And in doing so, we were also surrounded by a fair amount of people that all of us follow on social media platforms. And ever since coming home, it has been just something that has not really been bothering me, but just something that I think about often now when I'm on social media. And that is the kind of paradox of the social media connection. And so what I mean by that is when you follow someone and you think you know them, and then you see them in person and you're like, I'm not really sure that's true. Or do I really know them at all? So I thought it would be fun just to have a shorter episode today. And we're just going to talk a little bit about how we all feel about that. So before we dive into that topic, I want to just ask you two a question related to this, which is, while we were together in person, what's one thing you learned about me or one of us that there's no way you would have gotten, there's no way you would have gotten that on our social media platform? So what is something, Angela, that either you learned about Emily or myself that by following us on social media, you would not have known?
Well, you're both taller than I thought you were. Just from being on Zoom together and being, in social or in the Marcos, when you meet in person, it's like, oh my gosh, you're tall. But the other thing I noticed, Lisa, something I didn't know about you is you and your husband laugh together a lot. You guys are always making each other laugh. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I totally picked up on that. I was like, oh my word, they are always giggling, and maybe you guys have a lot of inside jokes or something. I don't know, but you're always making each other laugh, and I loved it.
That's sweet, Brian, if you're listening.
Yeah, right?
Well,
I will say along with
you have said that you're married to your best friend, and that was 100% what I picked up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
super sweet. I will say along with that, Angela, you and Jim together are the sweetest, so in love, googly eyed for each other after 30 years of marriage. Has it been 30 years? 35 years. Your love is it's so beautiful, the two of you. You're just so cute together. And I will also say the height factor when we all met for the very first time, which was last year. You don't know how tall somebody is until you see them in person. That's not something that you can really gauge. And then for Lisa, I will say I knew that you were an aromatherapist, so I realized that you would probably smell like essential oils, but I was like, oh, I want to sit next to her some more because she's just like this walking diffuser of yummy smells. And so that was really fun. And Angela, one more thing for you. I knew from seeing you on Zoom, you were always put together, but I only saw you from, the shoulders on up. And to see you in person, I was like, wow, that girl really does dress head to toe in these cute dresses with these cute shoes and the matching handbag. So we knew that you were our bougie friend, but seeing you in person all dressed up every time, I was like, oh yeah, girl is super classy.
Yeah. Emily kind of stole one of mine too. That would have definitely been something that, again, you only see people either in the Marcos. It's not like we're giving a full body shot when we're talking, unless we're like cooking dinner or something. But yeah, when we first met, I'm like, wow. And I think I just mentioned recently in the Marcos, no, it was in a text message that Angela sent us of her and her husband, and they were just like sitting there enjoying the beautiful lake view that they have. And I zoomed in on her photo she sent, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she is sitting out on her patio with the most beautiful pair of sandals on. And I would probably be out there with, definitely bare feet and my leggings and what have you. But for me, I would say I had a lot of butterflies the first time we met in person. The two of you had already met in person. And so I felt like I was like just rolling into the fold, and I wasn't really sure how that would unfold. And then I did invite you guys in to my hotel room for just chit chat and coffee. So you came right in with my aromatherapy diffuser blasting. One of the things that stood out for both of you were just how I think one of the things that's hard to get from a screen is the warmth. The warmth that you feel when you have an in-person connection conversation with somebody. So when somebody can really lean in and listen to what you're saying, and that just made me rolling into that fold so much easier. You guys were so welcoming. And then as far as our last time together with our husbands, it's funny that we're both picking up on just like how connected we are to our husbands, which I think is so special. But one thing I would never get from either one of your social media platforms is the story behind your connection with your husbands. Like, there is such a special story for each of you, and where you all started from, what age that was, and just like how you guys have built a life together. And that's just something I would have never gotten from just following you on Instagram or Facebook. So that was super special for me.
It was special. I loved it.
So I feel like the saying, I feel like I know you so well, but do I really, is kind of like a social media illusion. So let's just talk a little bit about the familiar stranger phenomenon. So I know for me personally, when we were all together, getting on and off of elevators and things like that, and passing each other, or not each other, but passing other people in the lobby and at the convention center, I would find myself in an elevator with somebody that I follow, and maybe even might put a little bit like on a pedestal almost, because I look at them like a mentor, slightly under celebrity level, right? And so I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know them, or in my head, I know them because like I know what their favorite drink is. I know, what they did on vacation 2 weeks ago. I know what their kids' names are, like anything that they're sharing. And now here I am in a closed elevator, and I feel a little paralyzed at, well, but they don't know me. And so do I open my mouth and like, of course I'm going to introduce myself, but it was just the weirdest connection. It was like one-sided. It was a little bit uncomfortable. It was kind of wonky. So did either one of you feel that way when we were all together amongst all the social media people? How about you, Emily?
Yes. However, I have been to this event that we went to recently. This is my third time there. And so thinking back on that first time, definitely had a lot of what you just described. And this third time, even though there's new people rotating in and I'm following them for the first time, I think I'm getting just a little more used to it, and not like purposely being able to not make it awkward. And what I have found for myself, a good strategy for myself, is to take away that thought that maybe they're a little above me, or like you said, that semi-celebrity status, I just remind myself they're just another person. And then I think, how would I start a conversation with another person? And my thought, my go-to has been complimenting them on something. So, like you said, introduce yourself and then say, I follow you on Instagram and I love how you do this. Or
Right.
your reels are so relatable. Or you take the best pictures. Or ask them like a question about something that I might have already learned about them. I just feel like breaking the ice in that way with either a compliment or a question helps
Mm-hmm.
facilitate that one-to-one, like actual person conversation, and takes away the intimidation factor that I know is just in my own head. Because they don't want to be treated differently. They're still just another person too. Maybe they do. I guess I shouldn't speak for other people. Maybe other people are seeking celebrity status through social media. But I know for me, I would want to just have that connection and not feel like there's a better than or less than component to that interaction.
Yeah, and you're taking away that one way intimacy, right? It's not just like I was feeling on one side and feeling like I'm at a dead end now, literally in an elevator. And your point is actually something else, which talks a little bit about that missing piece of digital connection, because we can hide also, even though we're in our stories with our faces and showing other people, inviting them kind of into highlight reels of our lives, we can still hide behind our screens. So I think you brought up a good point, Emily, that if you want to, you can decide, I'm going to make an actual connection. How about you, Angela? I know this is the second time you've been to this event too. So how does social media play in for you?
Yeah, I think that for me, it's a love-hate relationship with social media. I love following people. I love learning, even not just social media, but like podcasts that I listen to. Last year, I got to meet a coach that I have learned so much from on his podcast. And I mean, my husband was like, "What is happening to you? You are like seriously fangirling right now." And I'm like, "Well, put yourself in my shoes. Like, I have had his voice in my head for a year. And now here he is. And I'm meeting him in person. Like, I feel a little awkward, I think is maybe the right word. But then there's also this side of social media that, happens for me and probably most people where you fall into comparison. And so you do kind of feel like they're better than you or more popular, more beautiful, more successful, like fill in the blank, whatever. And just kind of that comparison piece that I'm always fighting against. So I do love social media, and also I have to be careful with it at the same time. I did have something interesting happen when you talked about the elevator, going into an elevator. When I first got to the event this year, I walked into the elevator and this woman looked at me and she goes, "Are you the one from the Life Coach Lounge podcast?" I was like, yeah. And I mean, at that point, we had what, maybe 7 or 8 episodes out. And she's like,
Right.
my word, I've been listening to your podcast. And so I don't know, it was maybe my first little taste of the reversal of what we're talking about. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you for listening, but it felt kind of like, okay, maybe I need like something to say when someone says that to me, need to prepare something. I don't know. It just felt, it was amazing. Like you said, Emily, like I felt complimented, but yeah, it was fun.
That makes a great point. Like we assume that other person that we follow or admire or listen to has it all together and it like is so influential, and like we have this idea of them, and yet here we are putting content out there and we weren't expecting anybody to think we were a big deal showing up. We're just like 3 friends that get to meet in person and bring our husbands along, and it's an amazing conference. I don't think any one of us thought, I wonder if we have any fans at the event, if anyone's going to come up and like be nervous to talk to us. So interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't think about that either, but absolutely, we could flip the script here. And yeah, that's very interesting. So you brought up a good point, Angela, when you mentioned that you are conscientious about being careful not to fall into that compare and despair type of mentality when following other people, influencers on social media. So, can we talk a little bit about what this looks like, especially for women and women of all ages? Right? Like when it comes to, especially being in any kind of transition, if you're a new mom, if you're going off to college, if you just got married, if you are an empty nester, if you like watching everyone else's highlights and edited versions of their life can sometimes feel, I think, a little isolating, especially if you fall into, which is so easy to do with social media, into comparing yourselves to what we're witnessing in a 19-second reel. So Angela, what would you elaborate on when it comes to, let's say, for like both of us, all of us have daughters that are in their 20s. Like, what advice would you give to them about if they were walking into a transitional time, moving out of the house, going to college, knowing what you know as not in your 20s? Like, how could you just a little bit like our episode, like if what I would tell my 20-year-old self,
Yeah.
but more to the point, like what you were talking about, like I have to be careful not to compare myself to others, but
Yeah.
I'm also midlife.
So where I land with that is that we are all told to guard our heart, that the Bible tells us to guard our heart. And so there are accounts you follow that inspire you and motivate you. And then there are accounts that you follow that you are going to kind of have the downward spiral. And yeah, you might really enjoy following that person, but if you're catching yourself continually going in that direction, maybe you need to do an unfollow for a while. Just protect yourself, guard your heart. And, that's the great thing about social media and about the algorithm is, I could look at anybody's feed, it would be completely different than mine. And so you can really tailor what you see to how you want to feel emotionally, building yourself up or, tearing yourself down. So I would definitely say guard your heart.
That is a perfect answer, honestly. No, seriously, I got a little lump in my throat when you said that. I'm like, yes. Yes, and that isn't just for the young somethings. That's for everyone.
I'm a young something.
When we witness so much destruction, we like things that are, like you say, tearing people down instead of building people up, even if it's done in a curated way, when you just kind of it's like being spoon fed except via social media. So yeah.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
thing that really makes me feel yuck is sarcasm. And there is so much sarcasm right now. And I just can't do it. I cannot do it. If somebody I like watching just goes in that direction, I have to be like, not today. Nope, I can't do it. Because then it turns me into that person.
Yeah. And I feel like it's easy for people. That's what I meant, like isolation. Like I feel like it's easy then for people to, you have this surface level connection, but you aren't really connected. So you feel lonely. And especially
I was
if you're
gonna
comparing yourself. Yeah.
I was going to add to what Angela was saying. I thought that was beautiful as well. In addition to that, limit your time on social media, on your phone, on technology, especially if you're a mama with little babies or little kids. that time goes so fast and you want to be looking at their little faces instead of your screen. And then also when it comes to getting stuck in comparison while you're on that screen, turn it off and go find real community, whether that's in your church or your town or a play group. Then you get to see and walk along side by side with other young mamas that are doing the same thing as you. You get a real life picture instead of just the highlights or just what they want you to see on social media. And that goes, I think, for any stage of life, teenagers, newly married, midlife, even. I think limiting our exposure to digital content and increasing our real time connection with actual people, right? Like building authentic connection with other people. I think that's going to last. And I know that social media and the digital world is not going away. I understand that. But we as humans still have control over how much we let it influence us and speak into our lives. And just a reminder, even for myself, I get to decide how much I want to be on those devices. They don't control me, I control them.
Good point. And a good reminder. I have had plenty of times when I've taken a break from social media, or did you know our smart devices that we all carry around with us actually allow you to control your social media time? Like you can set up your own parameters. Not very many of us do it, but it'll block you if you set it up. If you try to go in there, it'll be like, nope, you said no, not between these hours. So try again later.
You can take
So,
that a step further and give somebody else the password to unlock that or to change those
aha,
parameters too. If you're really struggling, you could give somebody else the password so that you can't just bypass it in that moment of scrolling or
true.
wanting more time.
So you mentioned, Emily, that social media, it's not going anywhere. So while we're on it, if we want to build real connection or more of a connection than that surface level in our digital world, what kind of practical ways do either one of you go about doing that? Like, I know I have, since that event, made a point to have actual conversations in the DMs, so they call it, to ask questions, like to be more curious. So if I'm watching someone's stories, I pay attention to the details in the story and I might ask a question because I saw something in the background, or I'm curious about where they filmed that or something like that. So I've been more conscientious to ask actual questions instead of just like, hey, how are you? Hope you have a good day. So, Angela, what is a way that you might build a connection with other people in the digital world?
Well, I think it definitely takes intention. It's so easy, especially since quarantine and COVID. I think we all got really comfortable in our own homes. And so it takes intention for me to say, hey, let's get together, invite my kids over for a meal. Jim and I, what we've been doing is we try to, every night after dinner, we go outside and take a walk. First of all, it's really good for you to do that. It really regulates your blood sugar after you eat. But
Yes.
just going outside and taking a walk. And in the summer, guess what? Other people are outside too. And I can't tell you how many times we end up on somebody's back porch or, just chatting and saying, hey, how about tomorrow night? You come over, for a cocktail or whatever. So just being intentional about seeking people out, having that time together in person. Yeah, I would just say it takes intention.
Good. Yeah, I agree. How about you, Emily?
I love what both of you have said. I am still trying to figure out how to effectively use social media. I'm not super active on there, but I love your strategy, Lisa, of actually creating a conversation, giving a compliment, asking a question to engage with those people. That's going to facilitate conversation, and conversation is where the connection is. And then, Angela, I do the same with especially people that are local that we maybe send reels to one another or follow each other. I will, if it seems attainable, like to invite them to coffee and actually get together one on one
You are the
to
queen
build
of
that.
coffee dates, I'm going to say. The
You are.
queen.
I do have a lot of coffee dates.
I love it.
Some really amazing, cute coffee shops around here too.
You want to remind our
Just
listeners
nothing.
where you are? If anyone wants to have a coffee day with Emily,
Reach out. I would love to. Yes. I think we're all still trying to get used to social media and what it has brought up for all of us as well, and what that has done to connection, like real person connection, and even getting back to that celebrity status. We were not meant to be celebrities. Like, in my opinion, God is the celebrity. He's the one that gets all the glory. We really weren't meant to get glory from other people. And so I think it's a really difficult thing to even process. So, you hear all the time actors, actresses, singers, people that are truly quote unquote famous struggle because I don't know that we were wired to know what to do with that. And so you put your face and your content on social media or in a podcast form or on a blog. And all of a sudden, there's this little bit of celebrity status that starts creeping in. And that just takes away from one on one, same level, sort of human to human connection. And I just think remembering that we're all just, no one's better than anybody else. We're all made equally in the image of God, and all of us bring different strengths, and connection is the key. So maybe that's why I'm still struggling with the social media thing, because I'm all about the in-person connection. It doesn't come naturally to me to connect in the digital world.
Well,
well,
and I
real.
can say, sorry, Lisa, I can say for
That's
one
okay.
that, the paparazzi following me around all day, it is exhausting. I have to tell you. I'm like beating them off with a stick over here
With your bear spray,
with my bear spray. Yes. Yes, my bear paparazzi.
your wilderness animals just following you. Yeah. Emily, you hit it on the head when you said that real connection is where it's at. And that is also where growth, transformation, like that's where that's going to happen. So I know personally, I don't pretend, I don't play one on the internet. I don't pretend to be an influencer. I don't have all the answers. I truly use my platform as like a window, yes, into who I am and what I'm all about. But at the same time, I try to pull the curtain back as often as possible with some humor sometimes, but just share vulnerable moments too. Like I don't live a perfectly curated life. Again, I am party on the top and casual on the bottom here. There's a big old pile of laundry sitting 5 feet away from me. Like, this is not a perfectly curated square, right? That we're talking in. So, I think it is important to remember that when we do watch others on social media. And also, I think it was you, Emily, that said this when you came to this event year after year, you remember, like, they're just people.
Yeah.
We're just people. We're all just living our lives. And some of us, like the three of us, happen to share it on social media. Emily's getting there. We're going to continue to help her
And
along.
coaching. I need help. Yes.
Lisa, you just reminded me of a story. When I was like in high school, junior high or high school, I was visiting my grandparents, and there was some concert coming to town that I really wanted to go to. And at some point I was like, oh my word, I would just die if I could meet them, And my grandparents laughed, and my grandpa looked at me and he said, oh honey, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. And it just left such an impression on me. But that's kind of what we're talking about. We're all people.
Right.
And we have the messy parts of our lives, and so do they.
Guaranteed. Like, guaranteed everybody else has real life stuff going on. No matter what it looks like on social media, nobody has a perfect life.
It's just perfectly curated. Well, I think I'm going to take your famous words that were passed on to you, Angela, and that we've all put our pants on one leg at a time. And I'm going to use that as the ending to this podcast, just to remind people that We're no different. We're no different. We might have different beliefs, different core values, and a lot of other differences, but really behind the screen, we're all just humans living our lives. So this was a super fun conversation, and thank you both for indulging my curiosity about this. I can let it go now since I stopped talking about it in the Marcos so much. And I hope that if you are listening today, you too walked away with a deeper understanding about the difference between knowing about someone and truly knowing that person. And also how to take your connection from surface level to a real relationship that has deeper connection and can fuel not only their growth but your own. So if today's episode spoke to you, or you listen to it and you're like, I have a friend who really needs to set a timer on their social media consumption, please share this episode with your loved ones. We would love that. Hit the follow button. And as always, you can find us on Instagram. Speaking of social media, you can find us on Instagram at the Life Coach Lounge. And we'll be cheering you on, not to perform perfect connection, but to find the courage to truly be seen and known. So until next time, be brave enough to go deeper. And remember that real connection starts with showing up authentically. And I'll chat with you girls in the Marcos.